to today's episode of Mental Health is Horrifying. I'm your horror Barbie host of Darkness, Candace Green, psychotherapist and all-around spooky bitch, podcasting from my bat-filled cave in Toronto, Canada. Do you remember having the summers completely off when you were a kid? What a time! There were no responsibilities and the days felt like they went on forever. All you had to do was ride your bike around, eat ice cream, and murder random seamen. Wait, what? Summer just doesn't feel like that anymore because there's no such thing as summers off when you're an adult. Suddenly, you gotta work 9 to 5. You gotta pay the phone bill and the property tax and the car insurance and take care of the kids. And now they're always the ones just hanging around. And you never see your friends anymore. And suddenly your knees inexplicably hurt. And that semen you killed with your friends is suddenly back and stalking you. Wait, what? Ahead of the release of the 2025 franchise reboot of I Know What You Did Last Summer, I thought it was high time to cover this 1997 horror classic, where we're along for the ride as a group of 4 teenagers experience their last summer of youthful recklessness before adulthood sets in. And whoo boy does it ever set in right quick. Fun's over, kids. Okay, so let's get right into it. Let's check out I Know What You Did Last Summer and its portrayal of the horrors of emerging adulthood.
So the boy and girl are making out, right? When they hear over the radio that this lunatic killer's escaped from an insane asylum.
That's not the way it goes. The boy goes for help, and the girl stays in the car, and she hears this, scratching sound.
No, he's been decapitated. No, he was gutted with a hook.
What's wrong with you? Watch out!
Oh my God.
I think he's dead.
We can't just leave him here.
Oh, tell me, little Miss Prelaw, what's the charge for manslaughter? We make a pact. Right here and now we take this to our grave.
For the last year, 4 friends have kept a secret.
Are you on drugs?
No.
Well, then what is wrong? I've had a rough year.
But not all secrets stay buried.
Somebody sent this to me.
Oh my God. Someone knows.
I know what you did last summer. Ooh.
What they thought would be a new beginning
Toast to us.
is becoming a dead end.
Somebody tried to kill you last night. We have to go to the police.
If he wanted me dead, he could have done it.
And the mistake they made
It was an accident.
There was no accident. It was murder.
What if he's still alive?
Hey!
What are you doing here?
is coming back to haunt them.
Oh my God.
He's after me, too. I got a letter. I got run over. Helen gets her hair chopped off. Julie gets a body in a truck, and you get a letter? That's balanced.
She's waiting for us to unravel.
The wait is over.
What are you waiting for, huh? What are you waiting for?
What you did last summer.
It's the 4th of July in America, by the sea, and a group of 4 friends is living their summertime fantasy extra hard because this is their last summer together before they all head off to their adult lives following their graduation from high school. Julie, Ray, Helen, and Barry are really living it up. So much so that they hit a man with their car. Whoops! Believing their youthful recklessness will destroy the futures they haven't even started yet, they make the well-thought-out decision to dump his body into the sea. Fast forward to 1 year later, when we drop in on each of the gang, and no one is doing great. University sucks, dreams have been crushed, working a 9 to 5 sucks, their friendships and romantic lives have gone down the tubes, and they're also all being stalked by the specter of the man they killed, including Julie, who receives a handwritten note that says, "I know what you did last summer." It's the exclamation point for me. Through a somewhat convoluted plot, it turns out that the gang didn't actually end up murdering anyone. It was just attempted, because he is indeed still alive and killing at will. Indeed, a hook-wielding fisherman begins terrorizing the gang and the entire town, seeking revenge against those who wronged him and whoever else tickles his bloodthirsty fancy. The kicker is that they do end up killing him in the end, or at least they think they do, as they attempt to escape his clutches. Man, these kids are really bad at killing people. Because he's still not dead. A year later and back at university, Julie finds a threatening message written on her shower mirror that says, "I still know," as a dark figure crashes through the screen. I Know What You Did Last Summer was released in October of 1997. Ugh, what a time, can you imagine? And stars Jennifer Love Hewitt, Sarah Michelle Gellar, Freddie Prinze Jr., and Ryan Phillippe. I wonder if Ryan felt out because he had only 2 names and not 3. It was directed by Jim Gillespie and written by the great Kevin Williamson, who loosely adapted the screenplay from the 1997 novel written by Lois Duncan, and it also draws inspiration from the urban legend The Hook. Kevin Williamson truly shaped so much of 90s teen culture, as he is the man who worked on timeless classics like, Scream, have you heard of it? He wrote the original screenplay and kickstarted the world's best franchise. In addition to The Faculty, Dawson's Creek, The Vampire Diaries, and more. This was a really critical time for horror, and Williamson was truly at the helm. The late 90s period revitalized the horror genre and brought it into a whole new era of prominence, where big-name celebrities were clamoring to star in what was once considered a purely low-rent genre. Suddenly, the stars of 90s horror films were appearing on the covers of teen magazines, girls were watching horror movies to watch hot guys take off their shirts and root for their favorite final girl, who was also starring in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. The 90s teen horror genre became such a cultural phenomenon that it was parodied in the Y2K classic Scary Movie and spawned a subsequent TV series and the new sequel that is coming to theaters tomorrow. Ugh, I'm so excited. Kevin Williamson does not appear to be involved in the 2025 I Know What You Did Last Summer franchise reboot. He's probably busy trying to fix the mangled wreckage of the Scream franchise that those other idiots destroyed. Best wishes, Kevin. What is emerging adulthood? Emerging adulthood is a unique period in human development that has historically occurred between the ages of 18 to 25. It is a period of development experienced by most in industrialized societies of growth and transition from childhood to early adulthood, marked by messiness, confusion, trying to be a real person, and not knowing what the hell you're doing. The main features that define emerging adulthood are identity exploration, instability, self-focus, and feeling in between. In previous generations in industrialized societies, it was common to get married in your late teens or early 20s, get a house and a mortgage, pop children out shortly thereafter, and settle down all before the ripe age of 25. But starting in the 1960s and 70s, a number of factors began to significantly prolong the entry into so-called full-fledged adulthood, including the technological revolution, the sexual revolution, the women's movement, and the youth movement. In particular, the invention of the birth control pill was a huge part of liberating women from the confines of marriage and childbearing, allowing women to claim more autonomy and the ability to focus on other areas of their life and identity. Where people were entering adulthood in their late teens and early 20s during the first half of the 20th century, As time has progressed, people are getting married and having children much later in life, if at all. People, and women in particular, are pursuing more higher education and for longer, which is putting off a lot of so-called adulthood, and people are living at home with their parents for much longer as well because, have you checked on the economy lately? She's not doing so great.
I'm not a girl.
In I Know What You Did Last Summer, there is so much awareness among the group of friends in the first part of the movie that emerging adulthood, aka the murderous fisherman, is on the horizon. And I think that these are markers of emerging adulthood that we can all recognize, have experienced for ourselves, and might even be currently in the midst of. First of all, Helen Shivers is an absolute icon, and she has a pretty recognizable trajectory of failing to launch into adulthood. In her hometown, she's a beauty queen, everyone loves her, she's perfect, she's beautiful, she looks like Linda Evangelista, and she's a really big fish in a small pond. She has big dreams of moving to New York to become an actress. She talks to her hunky, dumbass boyfriend Barry about getting married, having kids, him going to rehab, her becoming famous. But when we check on her a year later, we find her sort of tail between her legs, living back in her hometown at her parents' house, working alongside her sister at the family store. The part where she comes back to participate as the Croker beauty pageant queen in the 4th of July parade, she is deflated. The fisherman just hacked off her long, beautiful, youthful hair. Wait, did he give her a mom cut? And as she flees to escape him and runs through a dark alley right next to the parade of revelers in her hometown, no one sees her and she is forgotten. This scene truly breaks my heart every time. You know how you scream at the TV wishing for a different result? I scream every time for someone to notice her and to save her. Think of the delightfully messy adult she could have become. I'm seeing a juicy sweatsuit and a screwdriver. R.I.P. Helen Shivers. For Ray, I think it's really interesting to consider the archetype of the fisherman and what that might reflect in his psyche. He was, after all, the one driving the car that hit the fisherman. Ray is a Southport native, and he tells us that his father worked the boats too. It seems Ray was fated to also work the boats and to be a fisherman, which is a very adult job filled with hard work and responsibility. We find Ray a year later, as a fisherman, estranged from his group of friends, and his girlfriend Julie working a regular adult job, one he seemed unable to avoid. Barry really says it best as the gang prepares to gather on the beach on the 4th of July to tell scary stories by the fire and drink right out of the bottle. He says,
"Toast to us. To our last summer of immature, adolescent decadence."
And this is where you can really feel the influence of Kevin Williamson, as I can hear Randy Meeks from Scream warn everybody about the rules of surviving a horror movie, like he did to all the other high school kids luxuriating in their immature adolescent decadence. To survive a horror film, you can never have sex, never consume drugs or alcohol, and never say, "I'll be right back." Well, Julie breaks that first rule real quick as she worries what will happen between her and her hunky boyfriend Ray when she goes off to university, and he assures her that they will stay together forever, and then they bone down in the sand. A very emerging adulthood thing to do, n'est-ce pas? Well, it turns out the specter of emerging adulthood is a perv, because this, among other indiscretions, marks her for death by the fisherman, who she marked for death when she attempted murdered him. Like I said, it's a very convoluted plot, but the point is, these kids are making poor decisions. They drink in the car, they speed, they listen to heinous music, and adulthood literally comes crashing in when they hit a man with their car and need to figure out what to do with him. A mature adult might have taken a moment to pause to decide the best course of action, like calling an ambulance or a lawyer. But no, those in emerging adulthood are in an age of instability, self-focus, identity exploration, and being in between, also known as being on the hot mess express. So they dump him into the sea and are like, well, that takes care of everything. Let's never speak of this again. Happy birthday, America! After a mere 1 year at university, working jobs, and otherwise life in the adult world, all 4 kids in I Know What You Did Last Summer look and spiritually act like they've been hit by a bus. They're like, this is adulthood? And I have to do it forever? Even Julie's own mother tells her when she returns home for the summer, you look like death, and what happened to my daughter? Thanks, Mom. Yes, the adulthood bus. It's a bus we all get hit by, some of us over and over again. Maybe you've been hit by the bus and need medical attention. Maybe you're like the bike that's been strapped to the front of the bus and is like, what am I doing here and why is it so loud and hot? Or maybe you're just being dragged behind the bus. Another feature of emerging adulthood I think a lot of people can relate to that is portrayed in I Know What You Did Last Summer is the flailing and faltering of relationships. In their youthful optimism, they are all sure they'll remain friends forever and have bright futures together. But as people make the transition from adolescence to adulthood, people go in different directions, people evolve, and relationships that once felt like the center of your world can start to shift in really painful and confusing ways. In this year of our Lord 2025, a term coined by German psychoanalyst Erik Erikson would seem to apply here: prolonged adolescence. Where emerging adulthood was typically viewed as occurring between the ages of 18 to 25, it's hard to say where the upper limit of that number is today, as adolescence is being definitely prolonged. What is it, 35? 46? There's a lot of shame or judgment in conversations about the upper limit of emerging adulthood shifting, but it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's good that people are accessing more education and at higher levels, particularly women. This has enabled women to garner financial independence and not be reliant on a partner or the institution of marriage for security. It's so normal during emerging adulthood to feel confused, anxious, and unsure about what the hell is even going on. It's all part of the growth, although it's definitely uncomfortable. You might find yourself comparing yourself to others to see if you're doing it right, or hitting all the supposed milestones you're supposed to be hitting at the right time and in the right way. But this is all so personal and subjective, and only you can walk your unique path. If you're into astrology, this might be a time you are familiar with called your Saturn return, which is a time when the planet Saturn returns to the same astrological sign and degree in the sky that it occupied at the time of your birth. Saturn is known as the Great Malefic in traditional astrology. It represents reality, restrictions, mortality, and loss. It takes between 27 and 30 years for Saturn to travel through the zodiac, so that means everyone goes through a Saturn return at the end of their 20s, 50s, and 80s. And because your first Saturn return tends to occur in your 20s, it can feel like a total shock to the system. Thanks to Saturn's slow speed, each Saturn return lasts approximately 3 years. During emerging adulthood / your Saturn return, this time will echo themes of transition, responsibility, and significant growth. Speaking mainly to the millennial or Gen Z generation, we also inherited a time when you could have done everything right, and it's still damn near impossible to own a home, get a stable job with a good income and good work-life balance now that tech has taken over our lives. And don't even get me started on the inherent challenges in securing relationships now that people don't know how to meet or talk to each other. A tarot card that I associate with I Know What You Did Last Summer is, not ironically, the Sun card. I'm using the Rider-Waite-Smith deck, and just look at this baby. This baby is having the time of their life. They're out here enjoying the sunshine, riding a horse, fully in the nude, and there's a sense of endless possibility. But what is the shadow side of this? Yeah, this sweet, dumb, innocent baby is having fun, but how long can that really last? That baby should probably be wearing some sunscreen, and they should definitely be wearing some clothes. I mean, have they even thought about the risks of prolonged sun exposure and chafing? How well do they really know that horse? These are things that those entering emerging adulthood have to start thinking about, and suddenly this card starts not seeming as much fun through that lens, right? I also noticed the sunflowers in the card, which are an August flower, and yeah, they're beautiful and perfect and look like a Linda Evangelista now, but soon they will wither as the lazy, hazy days of summer come to a close and September creeps in, a month associated with school and getting back to routine and more serious pursuits. The days that Barry refers to as immature adolescent decadence are numbered, and this feeling of endless summer, endless freedom and consequence-free living are dwindling. Sorry, baby. Time to grow up. In scholarship on emerging adulthood, the factors that seem to be associated with reaching adulthood are pretty normative in nature. Get married, become financially independent, have kids, get a house, get a job, die. I don't know about you, but if those are the only markers for what it means to be a successful adult, I'm opting out immediately and living my life as a chia pet. Adulthood, like everything in our society, is a construct. The literature and study of emerging adulthood definitely has a capitalist, heteronormative, and affluent lean to it. It's easy to see how these expectations are designed to have us all become small cogs in an ever-grinding normative wheel. But if we can just zoom out for a second here, I think about all the variety of lived experiences of people and the fact that there is a whole world out there and countless, endless ways to live your life. The rigid ideals of emerging adulthood through this perspective start to soften. It can be challenging to hop off the wheel of expectation and not ascribe to the strict markers of what Western adulthood should be, and take the time to define that for yourself. For me, the financial independence piece definitely stands as being of critical importance personally, because it allows me to access so many other forms of freedom, independence, and creativity that I value very highly in my definition of adulthood. Taking responsibility for yourself and your actions is up there too. So no murdering semen. And if you do, then you're probably going to have to go to jail or at least do some community service. Family, friends, and chosen family are huge for me too, but so are animals and the occult. Here's an exercise you can do. Take a tarot deck and hold it face up so you can see all the cards. Go through the cards and pick out 5 that describes how you want to feel in your life. It doesn't matter what their traditional meanings are. because this is all about bucking tradition and defining your own path. Pick them out and place them in front of you. What kind of life is this? Are the choices you are making now leading to a life that feels this way? Or is there something you want to change? Maybe you'd also like to choose some cards that represent the aspects of your life that you picked up along the way that don't align with your values and see what is revealed there. I'm telling you, ghouls, tarot always reveals the truth. As we see in I Know What You Did Last Summer, emerging adulthood is violent, relentless, confusing. It smells like fish, and it doesn't let you shower in peace. I often hear people say, I just fell into it, with it being their life. There is the presence of water throughout I Know What You Did Last Summer, and for me, it indicates this feeling of inevitability so many experience when it comes to adulthood. And the fact that water is not only powerful, like the tide that is coming in on the beach during the 4th of July, but also that water will follow the path of least resistance, like it has no choice. I think the 4 teens in this movie feel that way too, like the paths their lives will take are more of an inevitability than a conscious choice. The legacy of this franchise is a bit spotty. There's a second movie that came out called I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and it has a legendary karaoke scene, and I think it's worth watching just for that. But after that, there was a weird direct-to-video movie called I'll Always Know What You Did Last Summer with none of the original cast. Then there was the TV series, and now finally, and hopefully, a return to form with the franchise reboot. It's sad to think that Helen and Barry didn't get their chance to define their lives on their own terms because the fishermen killed them, and we'll never get to see what they could be like as adults. I'm looking forward to seeing what Julie and Ray's lives are like now. Is Ray still a fisherman like his dad? Can Julie shower and receive mail in peace? But my guess is that this time in their lives left an indelible mark that will be with them forever, or at least as long as the franchise is profitable. That, my ghouls, is the story of I Know What You Did Last Summer and the horrors of emerging adulthood. But hey, adulthood is not all bad. Every day this week, the ice cream truck has parked beneath my office window, and I'm not always able to go get ice cream because I'm giving therapy, but if I ever show up to a therapy session with an ice cream cone, just let me live my summertime fantasy. Mental Health is Horrifying is entirely researched, written, edited, and produced by me, Candace Green, registered and spooky psychotherapist. If you like this podcast, please consider rating and reviewing on your preferred listening platform. It really helps the show to reach all the other spooky ghouls out there, and I will be eternally grateful. And an eternity is a very long time for a vampire, okay? If you live in Ontario and or Toronto and are interested in psychotherapy with me, I offer both virtual and in-person therapy for final girls in haunted houses who want to make sense out of the guts of their lives. I specialize in grief and trauma and incorporate both tarot and dream work into my practice as tools to delve deeper into fields of psychic terrain. You can follow me on Instagram at Mental Health is Horrifying, and you can also learn more about me and my services through my website, manymoonstherapy.com. Or you can also howl at the moon and I will hear your call. Bright blessings.